Bonjour à tous et bienvenue dans la série Meet the Founder d'ImpactLab dédiée à l'Agritech. J'ai eu le plaisir il y a quelques semaines d'échanger avec Rietberg, fondateur de la startup Agri-Wallet, qui permet d'optimiser l'accès au financement pour les agriculteurs en Afrique. Je vous laisse découvrir notre échange. Hi Ad, thank you for being here with us to talk to us about Agri-Wallet. So first, can you tell us a few words about how the solution works?
Yes, and thank you for inviting me. A pleasure to be here. Agri-Wallet is a fintech solution. It's a solution to help farmers get the financing they need to improve their farming, to improve their yields. And it's a system that uses mobile phones, mobile money, to make it easy for farmers to get access to finance. And it's a tool for banks to make it easy for banks or funders or government to provide finance to farmers.
Can you tell us more about how Agri-Wallet works?
It's important for farmers that they buy good quality seeds, that they buy good fertilizer, that they buy irrigation systems or greenhouses to help them improve their yields. Now, the banks and the lenders, they find farmers too risky. Farmers are a risky business. And in the past, what happens a lot is that farmers get loans from banks, but they don't use the loans from the banks, the farm loans, for the farm. They use it for all kinds of other things. They use it for consumption. And so what we have done is we have created what we call a closed loop. That means that the funds that the farmers get can only be used, they are restricted, and they can only be used to buy good quality seeds, good quality fertilizer, or irrigation systems or greenhouses. And by doing so, we are sure that the money that they get from the banks or from the government in a subsidy are actually used for quality, we call that farm inputs, which enable the farmer to double or triple their yields. So this closed loop is good for the farmer, and it helps the governments or the banks to reduce the risk, because the financing can only be used, it's restricted to be used on those things.
Great. So you come from a background of health and tech mainly. What attracted you to Agritech?
Healthcare and education, of course, also are big social topics. But agriculture, of course, is very important, I think, especially also in Africa. Africa, we have, of course, the population is going to double in the coming 30 years to 2 billion people. So that's an enormous growth in population. People need food, so there's a big demand for additional food production. Yields are often low in many countries in Africa. So it is a big problem that needs to be solved. It's a big opportunity from a business point of view. It has a big social impact. Food is the first priority for a lot of people. And because we see now all farmers getting access to phones, and more of the farmers also get access to internet and smartphones, we see that tech can play an important role to help to solve this problem.
What about your scale? You're already in 3 countries today. What challenges did you face when growing?
So when we grow, it's always, of course, important to make sure that to get started. The initial startup is always, of course, the toughest. And who will do the initial funding? We were lucky; we got funding from the MasterCard Foundation to get started. So it's always important to get who will do the first initial. And in tech, we have what we call a minimum viable product that needs to be built and needs to be tested with clients. And that takes money and that takes time. And we had success in getting the initial funding sorted. We work with banks, we work with governments, and they have enormous potential for scale. But of course, governments and big banks, they take also a long time to make a deal with. So it's not easy to work with a big bank. It's not easy to work with a government, especially not when you're an initial startup. These banks, these governments like to work with big organizations and not with small startups. They find that a bit scary and risky. So it's initially to build a relationship with banks and with governments takes a long time. And therefore, as a startup, you need to be able to sustain for a couple of years to build up those relations before we can really scale. So hopefully this year we will start to do really big scale projects with the government in Africa, with a big bank. And that hopefully will then be able for us to reach a few million farmers.
And are you already today able to measure your impact at the level of farmers?
Yeah, so for us, the most important thing that we can measure with farmers is the improved yields. As I said, the population in Africa will double. That means twice as much food needs to be produced in the coming 30 years. So our impact, our target is that we help farmers to double their yields on the same plot of land. So not just cut down forest and double the land, but on the same plot of land, double yields. And we see that the farmers that we work with, the farmers who we enable with this financing, who can buy better seeds, who can buy better fertilizer, who can buy irrigation systems, who can buy greenhouses, they can improve their yields not only just by 200%, but we see that the good farmers who use this finance well, they can improve their yields by 300%. So that's a big impact. So we see a lot of potential, and we see the farmers that pass what we call our graduation program and continue, that they can have a yield increase of 300%. And that's of course a very big impact, not only for Africa, but also for the farmer itself, who also then can earn a lot more money. So it also helps the farmer, and a lot of farmers are poor. So it helps the farmer also to take much better care of his or her family.
That's amazing. So would you have one piece of advice that you can share with an aspiring Agritech entrepreneur?
Yeah, what I notice is I've been in Agritech and in tech already for the last 30 years. And a lot of tech people, they're very much tech focused. So they think about the technology. I come from the digital tech, from the IT side. People love to program and people love to develop apps and things like that. But it's really important for a tech startup to also think about the customer. And we call this customer discovery. That means really take time to understand what is the problem that the customer is facing and how can you help the customer overcome his or her problem. So my one advice would be to tech entrepreneurs. Yes, tech is important. Yes, it's great if you understand tech. It's essential, but it's also as essential to really understand the customer. So spend time on customer discovery, go out there, talk to your customers, and start as soon as possible. Even when your product is not ready, do customer discovery, learn about your customer.
That's true. Like the agri world in general is very specific, and a lot of focus needs to be put on understanding these specific characteristics of it.
Right. Exactly.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your learnings with us, and see you soon.
Thank you. You're welcome. Bye-bye.